Hello and welcome to the Week 1 edition of the Coaches Show on 90.1 KBPK and SportsNetUSA.net. I'm Noah Alvarez. I'll be joined alongside Ryan Osborne and Mark Pavlovich later. The temperatures are heating up, and so is the anticipation for the Week 1 matchup between Fullerton College and Golden West College. Rashawn Haylock, Mark Pavlovich, Corey Nayland, and the crew will be on the call Saturday at noon at Yorba Linda Stadium. A lot of new faces on this Fullerton Hornets roster. We're going to go ahead and talk with Coach Garrett Campbell to introduce us to some of the newer faces on the team. Hi, I'm here with head coach of the Fullerton Hornets, Coach Garrett Campbell. Coach, you've had a whole off season and a scrimmage to kind of really look into your team, kind of evaluate them. What are going to be some strengths and weaknesses of your team this year?
Well, I think overall our speed is pretty sound. We're a pretty fast team. We've always historically been a fast team, and I think we are as well this year. I think what's unique about this year's team is we have some really good, talented players, but we're pretty young. And where we've been the last few years, we've had some kids who have been their second or even third year in the program, maybe gray shirted or what have you. This year we don't have as many. We're going to play more true freshmen than we have in a while, probably on both sides of the ball. And we'll see how that goes. Young pups they'll make some great plays, but they'll make some big mistakes as well. But I think generally speaking, our speed is kind of one of the determining factors. And not only is our speed, but just the way we practice and our sense of urgency within practice and how we try and translate that to the game. So I hope those young men on our team who are experienced will be able to translate that urgency to the other guys as we play on Saturday.
Okay. To elaborate on the youth, especially at the wide receiver and running back position, a lot of players from last year left. Can you speak on some of the names and the players that we should be expected to see a lot of action and be some impact players going forward in 2019?
Yeah, so on the running back position, we've got a few guys. We've got Lucky Avenger. He's back. Obviously, he had a great year last year for us. Did a great job. And then we've got two transfer kids that came in. Alfonso Graham was one, and he's kind of a speedy back and does a great job. Powerful enough, but got some great speed. And then Brandon Rankins is a young man who transferred in from the University of Utah, and he's got the power, but he's got enough speed. So it's kind of an interesting mix with those three guys. So we're really excited about those. At the receiver position, you've got a couple of returners. Tyler Beckwith and Tim Allen are both returning players, and they've had great off seasons. They've done a heck of a job in the weight room. They're ready to go. And then we got a few guys that transferred in. Kayshawn Griffin is a young man that transferred in from San Diego State. And we've got a few other guys that we're really excited. But those are kind of Kalen Nosif is a medical redshirt last year for us as well, and looking pretty good. Lorenzo Penn is a transfer as well. And then Coy Thomas was a gray shirt for us last year. We're really excited about him as well. So we feel like we got enough depth at receivers. Just a matter now they got to go out and make plays.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the receivers and running back, obviously someone has to hand them the ball off or throw them the ball. We saw a little bit of Quinn Commons last year. Can you speak on the quarterback position as a whole going forward in 2019? Because obviously Jensen was a huge part of the offense last year. Can you speak on what some of the strengths are going to be in this year's unit?
Yeah, so Gresh did a great job, and he actually played a ton against Texas A&M the other night. It was pretty fun to watch him play in front of 100,000 people at Kyle Field. But Quinn's done a great job. He's kind of mastered the offense. He understands where everybody needs to be. He understands how to check the protections, that kind of stuff. He understands he's got a lot of freedom within the offense, as he did last year, actually. He was playing with Gresh in terms of they were alternating series, doing a great job there. So we're excited about him, ready to rock and roll. And then we've got Cooper Callis is transferred in from Southern Illinois, played at Pearl River Community College in Mississippi last year. Really excited about him and the things he can do. He's also another excellent passer, just tremendous. And then Christian Frojak is a young man out of Connecticut who is by way of Eastern Illinois as well, and he's just a heck of an athlete. Moves around really well, does some great things. So we feel really good about where we're at in the quarterback position. I'm excited about watching them. I expect all three of them to play as we go forward. How and all that kind of stuff, we'll work through that, but I really do expect all three to play.
A big thing when quarterbacks leave and new quarterbacks come in is sometimes the playbook may change here or there. As far as your overall playbook, did you have to change the offense a little bit for Commons and some of these other new quarterbacks?
No, we didn't. The offense is the offense, and so what you've seen on film and the things we do, we tweak things from week to week and we game plan, and we have kind of our dirty dozen every week, that things that we're going to adjust and make sure our guys that they know that teams are going to have to defend against us. But no, the offense as a whole stays the same. In fact, it's kind of boring throughout the year. We do the same kind of probably 12 pass plays and 2 or 3 run plays over and over again to the point where our guys get really tired and boring of it. But when you start training camp, when you start preparing for week 1, then you add a little more. And so no, in terms of changing the playbook, not really.
Speaking of week one, Golden West Rustlers this Saturday. Obviously, last season didn't go as well or as planned for you guys.
Why we won.
Well,
That was the plan.
Right.
Win. All you guys in the media, you wanted to win by 45 points.
No, I'm just. But the point I'm trying to ask was there any greater sense of anticipation this whole offseason as far as getting to this week one? A lot of new faces, a lot of new kind of structure in the program.
Yeah, but I think here's the problem. I think if you're looking forward to your week one, then you're not focused on what you need to do, in April, May, June, July, August. So if your focus is on Golden West, and you're not focused on yourself and getting better during training camp or the mini camps or the OTAs that we've got going on, and I think that our guys did a great job. But just say, live in the here and now. What's going to happen is going to happen no matter what, and just stay in the present and get better every single day. And I think they did a great job with that. So we don't worry too much about that. Again, you guys all worry about that stuff. We don't worry about that.
Speaking of Golden West, what are you expecting from Nick Mitchell's defense week one?
That they're big, strong, fast, and they bring it, and that's what's going to happen. And he does a great job. He's one of the best defensive coordinators that we go against, and he's always got some adjustments. He had us schemed up pretty well last year, but we still scored 31 points or whatever the number was, 30 points. But he did a great job, and his kids did a great job, and I fully expect that to happen again. And I think the thing you see between a Golden West and Fullerton game is you're going to see mutual respect for those guys. As we do when we play Riverside the following week, there's just mutual respect because we know they're good, they know we're good, and it's just going to be a battle, and it's just fun to be a part of. And, it's going to be hot on Saturday, and there's going to be guys falling over, guys puking. There's going to be a lot of crazy stuff going on, man. And so, it's just a matter of it's just going to be a good old-fashioned slobber knocker, and just got to come out ready to play.
Now you mentioned some of the guys puking and stuff like that. The heat, obviously a concern, maybe a little bit on Saturday. Anything you're doing during the week to prepare your players?
Yeah, we're getting them a lot of water breaks. Just drinking water. There's not much else you can do. I mean, we had a physical practice, a rough practice today, and they did a great job. But we are always going to practice with a sense of urgency. We're not going to back off just because it's a little hot and that kind of stuff. We've got excellent. Juan Cuevas is probably one of the best athletic trainers I've ever been a part of. And in fact, he was a student trainer when I was a player here. That's how far we go back. So I trust what he has to say, and he knows that we want to push our guys, but we also know how smart we've got to be with that. And we cut practice we cut a couple periods out today to make sure that our guys stayed fresh throughout practice, but we got to grind them too, because it's Saturday at about 3 o'clock or so. It's going to be hot and it's going to be nasty, and you got to win the last 4 minutes of the game. So.
Final question. You played here. You've been here with this program as a coach for 4 years, second year as a head coach. Has this program taken a little bit more of your personality on as you progress through the years?
Well, I don't know about through the years. I think since becoming the head coach, I think there's things that, look, I knew Hal Scherbeck really well. I was a ball boy on his teams. My dad worked for him for 12 years. Used to have orange fights and tennis ball fights with Brian Noble in his backyard, and I don't know if those names mean a lot to you, but I know some others they do. And then when I came in, Gene Murphy just got hired as the coach, so I knew Coach Murphy extremely well. Ended up being almost like a second father to me. And then, in fact, when I got hired on to coach here initially back in the late '90s, Tim Burns was the offensive coordinator that I worked for. So all these people I've known for decades and decades. And I think what you'll find is, one, I have just an outstanding respect for all of them. And I came back here. I left a really good position to come back here to work for Tim. And I love Tim to death, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for Tim. And I knew I could, and I was perfectly okay with that. But I think anytime you have a new head coach, regardless of who it is and what their circumstances and what they've done in the past, there's going to be a little bit of their own personality that comes into play. And I think that's true here as well. So I'm different than Tim. I'm different than Coach Murphy, and I'm different than Hal Scherbeck. But these are all also different times than all those people. So, but I will say this: the one thing that obviously we all have dealt with is the tradition of Fullerton College football, and that means a lot to me. Having been a ball boy, having played here, having my brothers play here, my dad coached here, all that stuff means a great deal to me. And I think that just understanding the tradition, that common thread that all of us have, I think, no matter who it is, we all understand that was critical. So my own spin, yes, but at the same time, there's a lot of similarities.
Well, thank you very much for your time. Best of luck this week.
Thank you very much.
I'm here with Fullerton Hornets quarterback Quinn Commons, now a sophomore after a pretty relevant freshman year. Quinn, first question I wanted to ask you, now you being the starter, as far as going back into last year, you were more of the backup reserve role. How has the responsibilities changed, and what were some of the things you worked on, specifically in the offseason?
Over the offseason, I just used what I learned last year to up my game. So I would watch film from last year, saw what I did, and learned to improve. And just being back here again, it helps with the offense a lot. So I feel way more comfortable. Because last year I was iffy on my reads and stuff, so now this year I'm totally comfortable. I can just focus on playing football.
What are some of the other areas that you were looking to work on this offseason?
I got stronger, so I put on 10 more pounds, so now I'm up to 225, just so to take those college hits, because after the games were rough feeling. And then I just worked on getting stronger, so I feel like I can throw. I probably put like 10 more yards on my deep ball and did some speed training to get faster.
Now, we were just talking with Coach Garrett Campbell, and he didn't say much, but as far as what you've seen as a player perspective, has the offense changed a little bit now that you're kind of running the show versus Gresh Jensen was last year?
It's sort of the same. I feel like we have the same base plays, but once after game one, we'll be able to tell because right now it feels the same.
Okay. And then speaking of Gresh Jensen, can you talk about what he did for you as a player last year and being a leader?
Yeah, he was just nicest kid I ever met. Was a great role model. Just taught me how to be like a great teammate and like took me under his wing, told me like what to expect at the next level, and just taught me how to like be a professional, really.
So a lot of new faces in the running back and wide receiver units. Can you speak on some of the names that have really stood out to you this offseason and during summer camp?
Yeah, so one is DeJounte Thomas. He switched from running back to wide receiver, and I think he's going to be big time because he's got speed like nobody else. And a receiver is Kalen Nosef, who came back from last year, played, and I think he got hurt, and he's going to be big for us coming back for a second year.
So first game, obviously, what are you most looking forward to when you face the Golden West Rustlers this Saturday?
I'm just excited to play football again. It's been a long off season. Since January, we've been lifting every morning. Every day we've been practicing, practice on holidays. I'm just excited to play football again.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time, Quinn, and best of luck on Saturday.
Once again, that was Noah Alvarez, joined by Quinn Commons. And just before that, we had the head coach of your Hornets, Garrett Campbell, on the Coaches Show. Now we get a chance to take an in-depth look at the opponent the Hornets are going to be facing this Saturday. Golden West College, the Rustlers, ended their season last year with a record of 6-5, having made it to the Southern California Bowl against Cerritos. In fact, the Southern California Bowl was the first time since 2015 that the Rustlers made it to the postseason. That year, the Rustlers faced the Mount Sac Mounties in the Patriotic Bowl, but they ended up losing it by a final score of 29-27, just 2 points. And by coincidence, in the first quarter, there was a safety that proved to be the difference between Mount Sac and Golden West. But once again, that's 2015. We switch back over to 3 years later, 2018. Last year, the Rustlers had one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the entire Southern League in Bo Kalbacher. Kalbacher throws for over 2,400 yards. Again, one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the Southern League. He ends up moving on to the University of Louisiana Lafayette because he was a sophomore for Golden West. Now, you also look at the rest of the offense that the Rustlers had to put on the field. They didn't really have anyone in the running game that they could rely on. It was one of the downfalls for the Rustlers all season long. Golden West came in last in the Southern League in rushing yards with just over 800. Nathaniel Espinoza, the backup quarterback, was one of the top 3 rushers on the team. Because the Rustlers couldn't run the ball, it forced them into a primarily pass-focused offense. Now, granted, when you look at how the team moves the ball around in the air, there weren't too many complaints. And again, Kalbacher, in all-conference selection, everybody's happy. However, with Kalbacher moving on, that leaves a huge hole at quarterback for Golden West. When you look at their current roster, they have a total of 6 different quarterbacks listed. We already mentioned Nathaniel Espinoza. He may have the inside circle on the starting job for Golden West because, again, last year he got some meaningful minutes and playing time, especially in that San Diego Mesa game where he showed that he can use his arm and his legs as well. But when you look at the newcomers, there are 3 different names that stand out on the list. Zach Lewis, out of Eastside Catholic, he's a Nevada bounce back, comes back from the Wolfpack, and was a 2-year starter in high school at Eastside Catholic. threw for over 3,100 yards as a junior with 31 touchdowns and 10 picks. When he moved on to the Nevada, he wasn't getting the playing time he would have liked, so he ends up coming over to Golden West College. You switch over to Noah Malbon, a Saddleback transfer who threw for over 108 yards last season, including going 6 for 13 for 58 yards in a game against College of the Canyons. So he got some meaningful playing time in the community college level here in Southern California. The last guy on that list is Richard Wagner. He's a bounce back from Cornell who threw for 2,158 yards as a senior at Santa Margarita High School, including 13 touchdowns and a total of 6 interceptions. So those are just 4 names that Golden West College is going to be looking to rely on going into week number 1. We'll see who is the starter. And once again, you have Espinoza coming back out of Corona Del Mar. Zach Lewis, a bounce back. Melbon has already played at the community college level. And Richard Wagner played for Cornell. So 3 actually make it 4 different guys who are all fighting for the same position. Now, when you look at the running game, well, there's not really anybody there to speak of yet. We'll see what happens in week number 1. Last year, it was Tavon Valdez who ran for over 340 yards for Golden West, but they didn't really have anyone else besides Espinoza. Now, the receiving game is a very different story. David Atencio was terrific, and when you look at his stats, he ended up being an all-conference selection. He's going to be back at Golden West College for another year. His sideline mate, Ben Ratzliff, ended up going to the Division I level as well, and he moves on to Houston Baptist University after also getting an all-conference selection. So they do get one guy back who's huge in David Atencio, but they also lose one guy in Ben Ratzliff. We'll switch over to the defensive side of the football. The Rustlers had their best success in the linebacking core and defensive backs last year. 2 starting linebackers for the Rustlers, David Aldapa and Wolf Retzlaff, both combined to make 119 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 10 tackles for loss, 4 forced fumbles, and 4 fumble recoveries. Aldapa ended the season as a Southern League All-Conference first-team selection, and he would end up transferring to Washington State in the Pac-12. You look at the defensive backing core, Ryan Raines, Coos Ford, Austin Kramer, all received all-conference picks as well. The trio combined for over 130 tackles, 5 interceptions, and 5 forced fumbles. Both Ryan Raines and Coos Ford ended up transferring to Division I programs. In fact, when you look at Coos Ford, he had offers from top 10 teams in the NCAA. He ended up choosing Louisville because he would get some meaningful playing time out with the Cardinals. Defensively, the biggest threat that the Hornets will have to face this year, though, is VJ Malo. Malo was a unanimous all-conference selection, first team, and rightfully so. Great pick. Malo finished the year with 41 tackles, 4 sacks, 13 tackles for loss, 3 forced fumbles, and 1 interception. VJ's biggest feat, though, was the timing of when he started to heat up, though. He recorded 3/4 of his total tackles in the final 6 games of the season. In fact, when you look at his 4 sacks, they all came after Game 6. Malo was terrific down the stretch for the Golden West Rustlers. And Malo has been picked by some to continue that conference selection streak into this year and be the biggest problem on defense for Fullerton College. So that's a look at the Golden West Rustlers. We'll see what either side is able to do on Saturday. Once again, that will be a 12 p.m. start, a battle of the booths, as we're going to have Mark Pavlovich, Corey Nayland on the Fullerton side, and on Golden West, it'll be Rashawn Haylock, the voice of the Rustlers. All 3 of them jam-packed into the booth in Yorba Linda. We'll switch things up now and take a look at the rankings around the state of California. That ended up being released earlier this week. We start off with number 1, Laney College. Now, they are the national champion, or I guess you could say California state champion. They go 11-2 last year. They beat Ventura in the championship game, and they get 7 votes for the number 1 ranking. No one else ends up getting a number 1 vote other than Laney. Right behind them is Ventura, again, They restocked over the offseason, added some new bounce backs to their lineup as well, and they're looking to improve on their 11-2 season. Now, no surprise, Riverside City College sitting right behind them at number 3, 11-1. They were everyone's pick to go to the championship and win the championship after Fullerton College wasn't eligible for postseason play. However, Riverside got surprised and upset by Ventura in the Southern California championship game, and that would be it. Riverside City College, with one of their greatest lineups in school history, just couldn't get over the hump and get into the championship game. So Riverside City College comes in at number 3. You look at San Mateo, they didn't have the season that they would have liked, especially considering that they went to the championship game the year before in 2017. This year, in 2018, they go 8-3, but now they're slotted in at number 4. Butte College rounds out 3 of the top 5 being from Northern California as they go 9-2. They go to the championship game in Northern California, but they just weren't able to get past Laney. Canyons, also 10-1. They just couldn't get past Ventura. They had faced Ventura before during the season and was one of Ventura's 2 losses, one being to Canyons, the other being to Fullerton College. But Canyons ends up at number 6 at 10-1 because they couldn't beat Ventura in the postseason. You switch over to American River. They finish off the top 7, joined by San Francisco, El Camino, and Modesto. That's the top 10. Now for Fullerton and Golden West, Fullerton will be joining the top 20 at number 18. Now, officially, they're listed as 2-8 last year, even though they have that 35-game winning streak that is still alive. They come in at number 18, and they were previously unranked with 49 points this year. Others included, that's where Golden West slots in there at 6-5, so they are just outside the top 25. Now that we took a look at the rankings, let's check the rest of the state of California to see which games will be taking place on Saturday. How many of those top 25 teams will actually be in play against other top 25 teams? The Laney Eagles, the number 1 team in the state of California, will be looking to start their title defense on Friday, September the 6th against Modesto. The Eagles beat the Ventura Pirates again to win the 2018 title. You go over to a rematch of 2 of the best football teams in the Northern American Conference. De Anza and Reedley will be facing each other. Both squads last year finished 10-1, and the 2 teams played each other in the NCFC American Division Championship, which De Anza won by a final of 42-41. Both of these teams very evenly matched. In fact, Reedley's only loss all season came to De Anza College. Another rivalry that will be on tap on Saturday will be the Sacramento City College Panthers as they look to rebound from a 5-6 season against their most bitter rival in American River. On the other hand, American River didn't really have the type of season that they are used to. They went 7-4. Both of those 2 teams separated by just 11.2 miles. So the Battle of Sacramento takes place on Saturday. Bakersfield will be hosting Mount Sac on Saturday as well. Both sides are former state and national champions in the last 5 years. And then you switch over to one of the biggest games of all. That'll be taking place in Santa Clarita. The College of the Canyons Cougars will be facing the Saddleback Gauchos in week number 1. A clash of 2 teams in the top 11 in the rankings, with Canyons sitting at 6 and Saddleback sitting at 11. Well, that'll do it for the preview into what you have to look forward to at Golden West, around the state of California, and the rankings as well. Let's send it back to Noah as he switches from one type of football to the other.
Now, while football may be one of the more popular sports on campus, it is not the only fall sport we'll be covering here on the Coaches Show. Each week, I'll be highlighting 2 other fall sports, keeping you up to date with all the action on campus. This week, we'll be kicking it on the pitch as both the men's and women's soccer team began their season at the tail end of August. The women's soccer team is off to a hot 2-0 start after defeating the likes of Southwestern and Mount Sac. They scored 6 goals in their first 2 games and are led by the sophomore duo of Kayla Basurto and Regina Sanchez Molina. Basurto connected on 2 goals in the first half against Southwestern and has been one of the key defenders on the back line for the Hornets defense. Midfielder Sanchez Molina scored the first goal of the season in the opener at Southwestern and again scored the first goal in their home opener against Mount Sac. Both games featured some physical play, as a total of 12 yellow cards were given out in the 2 matches, 6 belonging to the Hornets. Sophomores Daniela Perez, Ryan Barton, Skylar Van Voorhees, Melissa Flores Salas, and Samantha Duran each picked up a yellow card in the match versus Southwestern, while Regina Sanchez Molina received a lone yellow card versus Mount Sac. The freshman duo of forwards Morgan Dack and Rocio Marquez Marquina has been a pleasant surprise for head coach Pam Lewin. Both have 1 goal and 1 assist on the year in Fullerton's first 2 matches. The Lady Hornets' next 3 games are all on the road as they face the likes of El Camino College, Rio Hondo, and Long Beach before hosting Santa Monica on September 27th. Now moving on to the men's team. They're off to a 1-1 start in 2019. They drew a tough opening match and fell short to the reigning state champions, Cerritos College, by a score of 3-1. The Hornets jumped out to an early 1-0 lead thanks to sophomore defender Marco Polo's goal in the 3rd minute. However, Cerritos responded quickly and connected on 2 goals by halftime to take a 2-1 lead. The Hornets had a chance to tie things up on a penalty kick opportunity in the second half, but the Cerritos goalie made a clutch save, leaving Fullerton short of any comeback attempt. The Hornets were able to bounce back quickly with a 3-0 victory over Glendale College in their home opener. They were led by a trio of freshmen in Jonathan Ailman, Ryan Maynardis, and Kyle Thomas, as they each found the back of the net once in the match. Freshman goalkeeper Kevin Gonzalez was credited with the shutout and made 5 saves that afternoon. It was the first shutout of the 2019 season for Fullerton, a year after the Hornets broke their program record for most shutouts in a season with 11 last year. Head coach Greg Aviles led the 2018 team to their first Orange Empire Conference title since 1992 and will be looking to repeat with a much younger squad. Aviles currently has 24 freshmen on his roster in comparison to just 6 sophomores. Last year's team saw 14 sophomores move on to the 4-year university level in the offseason to places like Cal State Dominguez Hills, Cal State San Bernardino, and Sacramento State. The men's team has a tough road ahead of them this September as they face College of the Desert and Antelope Valley before a road trip to Northern California to face Cañada and Santa Rosa College. And that wraps up this week's edition of the Coaches Show. A lot to look forward to in 2019, but first, the Week 1 matchup between the Fullerton College Hornets and the Golden West Rustlers. Tune in to sportsnetusa.net at 12 noon on Saturday. Rashawn, Corey, Mark, and the gang will be on the call. You won't want to miss. For Ryan Osborne, Mark Pavlovich, I'm Noah Alvarez. You've been watching the Coaches Show on 90.1 KBPK and sportsnetusa.net.